Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The text came in at 11:47 p.m., just as I was reviewing the security logs for my building. Party running super late, crashing at Monica's tonight, too dangerous to drive. Love you. I'm Jack Harlan, 42 years old, and I've been the head of building security and facilities at Meridian Tech for 8 years. It's not glamorous work, but it pays well and gives me access to things most people don't have, like master keys, CCTV systems, and a healthy skepticism about people's alibis. My wife Celeste texted from what she called a corporate networking event at her law firm. She's a senior associate at Blackwood and Associates, ambitious as hell, and always climbing that ladder toward partnership. These late nights had been happening more frequently over the past 2 months. I poured myself a whiskey and settled into my home office. The house felt different when she wasn't here. Quieter, but also somehow more honest. Our marriage had been sliding downhill for a while, though neither of us had the guts to say it out loud. We'd been together 15 years, married for 12, and somewhere along the way we'd stopped being lovers and started being roommates who shared a mortgage. The next morning, Celeste stumbled through the front door at 8:30 a.m., looking like she'd slept in her clothes. Her black cocktail dress was wrinkled, her makeup smudged, and her usually perfect blonde hair looked like she'd been running her hands through it all night. Rough night? I asked, not looking up from my coffee and newspaper. Monica's couch is a nightmare, she said, dropping her purse on the kitchen counter. I barely slept. That's when I saw it. A thin gold hairpin fell out of her purse and clinked against the marble countertop. Celeste has worn silver jewelry exclusively for as long as I've known her. She says gold makes her skin look sallow. You dropped something, I said, pointing to the hairpin. She glanced at it, and for just a split second, I saw panic flash across her face. Then she laughed. Oh, that's Monica's. She was doing my hair earlier, trying to cheer me up. You know how she is. I nodded and smiled. Sure, Monica. But as she reached for the hairpin, I noticed something else. A thin red line circled her left wrist, like she'd been wearing a bracelet that was too tight. Celeste doesn't wear bracelets. She says they interfere with her typing. After she went upstairs to shower, I sat in the kitchen staring at that hairpin. My wife had lied to me. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she really had stayed at Monica's and borrowed some jewelry. But my gut, honed by years of dealing with security breaches and employee theft, was telling me a different story. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Monica Reeves, Celeste's paralegal friend from work. We'd met at a few office parties over the years. Nice enough woman, though she talked too much after a couple of drinks. Hey Monica, it's Jack, Celeste's husband. Quick question. Did she leave anything at your place last night? She's looking for her earrings. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Jack, I haven't seen Celeste in weeks. We've both been swamped with different cases. What do you mean, last night? My stomach dropped. Oh, I must have misunderstood. She said she crashed at your place after some work event. There wasn't any work event last night. At least, not that I knew about. Maybe it was one of the partner meetings? Those are usually pretty exclusive. I thanked Monica and hung up. The alibi was completely fabricated. I sat there for a long moment, listening to the shower running upstairs, and made a decision. If Celeste was lying to me, I was going to find out why. And I had the tools to do it. 20 minutes later, I was in my car, heading to the Meridian Tech building. As head of security, I had access to the building's entire CCTV system, including the cameras that monitored the street outside. Our building sits on the corner of 5th and Main, with a perfect view of the route Celeste would have taken to get to Monica's apartment. I settled into the security office and pulled up the footage from the previous night. The timestamp showed 11:52 p.m. when I spotted Celeste's white BMW turning onto Main Street. But instead of continuing toward Monica's neighborhood, she pulled over to the curb and stopped. A black Audi sedan was waiting for her. I leaned closer to the monitor, my heart pounding. The Audi's driver got out, a tall man in an expensive suit. Even in the grainy night vision footage, I could see he was handsome, confident, the kind of guy who probably never doubted himself about anything. Celeste got out of her BMW and walked toward the Audi. The man opened the passenger door for her, and before she got in, she turned toward him. They kissed. Not a quick peck on the cheek, but a long, passionate kiss that lasted at least 10 seconds. I rewound the footage and watched it again. And again. Each time, that kiss felt like a punch to the gut. At 12:47 a.m., according to the timestamp, my wife of 12 years was kissing another man on a public street, 3 blocks from our house. I screenshotted the clearest frame and enhanced the image as much as our system would allow. The license plate on the Audi was partially visible. VL4429. I ran it through our DMV contact database, a legitimate service we use for employee parking verification. The car was registered to Victor Lane, age 45, address on Hillcrest Drive in the expensive part of town. A quick Google search told me everything I needed to know. Victor Lane was a senior partner at Whitman, Crenshaw and Associates, the outside counsel firm that Blackwood and Associates frequently worked with on major cases. He was also married, with 2 teenage kids and a wife named Marjorie, who ran a successful interior design business. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the frozen image on my screen. My wife was having an affair with a married lawyer, a rich, powerful married lawyer who probably thought he was untouchable. That's when I started planning my revenge. Over the next week, I became a detective in my own marriage. I started paying attention to things I'd been ignoring. Celeste's sudden interest in new lingerie, the way she guarded her phone, the mysterious client dinners that seemed to happen every Tuesday and Thursday. I also started using my professional skills for personal purposes. It's amazing what you can learn about someone when you have access to building security systems across half the city. Meridian Tech provides security consulting for dozens of businesses, including several hotels. The Grandview Hotel on Riverside Drive was one of our clients. Their head of security, Tommy Brennan, was an old friend who'd helped me out with employee background checks in the past. I called him up and suggested we grab a beer to discuss their contract renewal. Actually, Tommy, while I've got you, we've been having some issues with fraudulent credit card charges at a few of our client hotels. Could you run a quick check for any charges under the name Celeste Morrison in the past month? Morrison was Celeste's maiden name. Tommy pulled up the records while we talked. Yeah, here we go. Celeste Morrison, room charges on 4 different nights over the past 6 weeks. Always the same pattern. Checks in around 8 p.m., checks out by 6 a.m. Pays with a credit card I've never seen on your joint account statements. My blood ran cold. What kind of room? Executive suite, expensive. And Jack? Tommy hesitated. The room was always booked for 2 people. I thanked Tommy and left the bar early, my mind racing. 4 nights. 4 nights of lies. 4 nights of working late, or client dinners, or staying at Monica's. How long had this been going on? That night I waited until Celeste was asleep, and then searched through her purse. Hidden in a side pocket was a credit card I'd never seen before. A Visa in the name of Celeste Morrison. I took photos of both sides and put it back exactly where I'd found it. The next morning, I called Eddie Torino, my oldest friend and a private investigator, who specialized in divorce cases. We'd grown up together in South Boston, and Eddie was one of the few people who knew me well enough to understand what I was going through. Jesus, Jack, I'm sorry, man. But if you want to nail this down tight, we need more than hotel records and CCTV footage. We need to catch them in the act. What do you mean? I mean, we stake out the hotel, get photos, document the timeline, maybe plant a GPS tracker on his car. If you're going to divorce her, you want evidence that'll hold up in court. The following Tuesday, Eddie and I sat in his van. Across the street from the Grandview Hotel. At 7:45 p.m., Victor Lane's black Audi pulled into the valet parking area. He got out, straightened his tie, and walked into the lobby like he owned the place. 10 minutes later, Celeste's BMW arrived. She'd changed clothes since leaving for work that morning. Gone was her conservative business suit, replaced by a tight red dress that I'd never seen before. She handed her keys to the valet and practically floated into the hotel. "Got him," Eddie said, snapping photos with a telephoto lens. "Look at her face, Jack. When's the last time she smiled at you like that?" I couldn't remember. We waited 3 hours before they emerged together. Victor had his hand on the small of Celeste's back as they walked to their cars. They kissed goodbye under the bright hotel lights, completely unconcerned about who might see them. "Cocky bastards," Eddie muttered, still taking pictures. "They're not even trying to hide it." While Eddie documented their goodbye, I slipped out of the van and attached a magnetic GPS tracker under Victor's rear bumper. It was a small device that would ping his location to my phone every 15 minutes. Over the next 2 weeks, I built an airtight case. The GPS showed Victor's car at the hotel every Tuesday and Thursday, exactly matching Celeste's late work nights. I had hotel records, credit card statements, photographs, and CCTV footage from multiple locations. I also discovered that Victor had a reputation around town. A quick conversation with a bartender at Murphy's Pub, where the local lawyers like to drink, revealed that Victor Lane was known for his affairs. He'd been cheating on his wife Marjorie for years, always with younger women, always with someone he met through work. "He's a predator," the bartender told me. "Thinks his money and his partnership make him bulletproof. His wife's a nice lady, too. She comes in here sometimes with her friends. Someone should tell her what kind of man she married." That gave me an idea. On a Thursday evening, I followed Victor's GPS signal to a different location, Russo's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. Through the window, I could see him and Celeste at a corner table, holding hands and feeding each other dessert like a couple of teenagers. I walked into the restaurant, asked for a table, and made sure the hostess seated me where I had a clear view of their table. When the waiter came by, I ordered a bottle of champagne. "Actually," I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "send a bottle to that couple over there. The blonde woman and the distinguished gentleman. Tell them it's from someone who admires their commitment to each other." Celeste looked confused when the champagne arrived, but Victor went pale. He scanned the restaurant until his eyes met mine. I raised my own glass in a mock toast and smiled. Victor said something urgent to Celeste. She turned to look at me, and the color drained from her face. They left their dinner half finished and practically ran out of the restaurant. I finished my meal slowly, savoring every bite. The hunt was almost over. The next morning, I made a phone call that would change everything. "Mrs. Lane, this is Jack Harlan. I believe we have something important to discuss about our respective spouses." Marjorie Lane agreed to meet me at a coffee shop in the neutral territory of downtown. She arrived exactly on time, impeccably dressed in a way that screamed old money and good breeding. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a perfect chignon, and her green eyes were sharp with intelligence. "Mr. Harlan," she said, extending a manicured hand, "I assume this is about Victor's latest indiscretion." I was surprised by her directness. "You know, I've known about Victor's affairs for years. This is simply the first time someone has bothered to contact me about one." She sat down across from me, her posture perfect. "What I don't know is why you're here instead of filing for divorce." I slid a manila envelope across the table. "Because I want to make sure they both pay for what they've done. Not just to us, but to everyone they've hurt along the way." Marjorie opened the envelope and examined the photographs Eddie had taken. Her expression never changed, but I saw her grip tighten on the coffee cup. "These are very thorough," she said finally. "You're not just angry, Mr. Harlan. You're methodical. I work in security. I believe in documentation. And what exactly are you proposing?" I leaned forward. "Victor's up for managing partner at his firm this year. That's a lot of money and prestige on the line. An adultery scandal, especially with evidence this comprehensive, would destroy his chances." "And your wife?" "Celeste has been angling for partnership at her firm. But Blackwood and Associates has a strict ethics clause in their partnership agreement. Sleeping with opposing counsel violates about 6 different professional standards. Marjorie smiled for the first time since sitting down. It wasn't a pleasant smile. You want to destroy their careers? I want justice. They made a choice to betray their families and violate their professional ethics. There should be consequences. Marjorie closed the envelope and looked at me appraisingly. I have resources, Mr. Harlan. Connections, money, influence. Victor thinks I'm just a decorative wife who arranges flowers and plans charity galas. He has no idea what I'm capable of when properly motivated. What did you have in mind? Leave Victor to me. I'll handle his career destruction personally. You focus on your wife, but I want regular updates and I want coordination. If we're going to do this, we do it right. We shook hands across the table. The alliance was formed. That afternoon, I received a text from Eddie. Your boy Victor just got served with divorce papers at his office. Word is his wife's lawyer walked right into the partners' meeting and handed them over in front of...
She just gave me a massage! That's it!
Remember, I won't be a fool!
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
everyone. Dude's career is officially fucked. I smiled and started planning phase 2. The next morning, I called in a favor with Sarah Chen, a lawyer friend who specialized in employment law. I'd helped her out with a security issue at her office building a few years back, and she owed me one. Sarah, I need advice about filing a complaint with the State Bar Association. Hypothetically, if a lawyer was having an affair with opposing counsel and using that relationship to gain advantages in cases, what kind of violations would that constitute? Jesus, Jack, that's serious stuff. Conflict of interest, breach of fiduciary duty, professional misconduct. Depending on the specifics, it could be grounds for suspension or disbarment. Why? Let's just say I've become aware of a situation that needs addressing. I spent the weekend preparing my complaint to the State Bar. Every photograph, every hotel record, every piece of evidence was meticulously organized and documented. I cross-referenced the dates of Victor and Celeste's hotel meetings with court filings and case deadlines, showing a clear pattern of coordination that went beyond professional collaboration. On Monday morning, I hand-delivered the complaint to the State Bar Association's ethics office. That same day, I sent copies to the managing partners at both Blackwood and Associates and Whitman, Crenshaw and Associates. By Tuesday, both firms had launched internal investigations. On Wednesday, Celeste came home early, looking shaken. Jack, we need to talk. I looked up from my newspaper. Sure, what's on your mind? There are rumors at work. Someone filed a complaint with the State Bar about Victor and about professional misconduct. They're investigating all of his recent cases, including the ones I worked on with him. That sounds serious. The partners want to meet with me tomorrow. They're asking questions about my relationship with Victor, about whether there were any improprieties. She sat down across from me, her hands shaking slightly. Jack, I need you to know that whatever you might hear, whatever people might say, what are you trying to tell me, Celeste? She looked at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew. I made some mistakes, poor judgment, but it's not what it looks like. I nodded sympathetically. I'm sure it'll all work out. You're a good lawyer, Celeste. I'm sure the partners know that. The relief on her face was almost painful to watch. She actually thought she was going to talk her way out of this. Thank you for understanding. I love you, Jack. I know I haven't been the best wife lately, but I love you. I love you too, I lied. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat in my office reviewing the final phase of my plan. Marjorie had been busy too. Victor's partnership vote had been indefinitely postponed, and there were whispers that the firm was considering asking him to resign rather than face the publicity of a formal ethics hearing. But I wasn't finished yet. Public humiliation was still to come. The Riverside Fall Festival was Meridian Tech's biggest community outreach event of the year. As head of security, I was responsible for coordinating the company's sponsorship activities, including the main stage presentations, where local business leaders were recognized for their community contributions. This year, I had a special presentation planned. Ladies and gentlemen, I said into the microphone, looking out at the crowd of nearly 500 people gathered in Riverside Park. Meridian Tech is proud to support our local legal community, and we'd like to recognize two outstanding attorneys who have shown exceptional collaboration on several high-profile cases this year. I gestured toward the VIP area, where Celeste and Victor were sitting with other local professionals. They both looked uncomfortable, but had no choice except to stand and acknowledge the applause. Please join me on stage, Celeste Morrison Harlan and Victor Lane, for a special recognition of their partnership. The crowd applauded as they reluctantly made their way to the stage. I could see the confusion in Celeste's eyes, the growing alarm in Victor's face as he realized something was wrong. As part of our recognition, we've prepared a special slideshow highlighting the importance of professional collaboration in our community. The large screen behind me lit up with a title slide, Partnership in Action, a case study in professional collaboration. The first few slides were innocuous. Stock photos of lawyers and meetings, courtroom scenes, the kind of generic imagery you'd expect. Celeste and Victor began to relax. Then came slide number 7. It was a photograph from the Grand View Hotel security camera, showing Victor and Celeste entering the lobby together. Their faces were clearly visible, and the timestamp showed 8:15 p.m. on a Tuesday night. The crowd murmured. Someone in the front row pointed at the screen. Slide 8, Victor and Celeste kissing goodbye in the hotel parking lot. Slide 9, Celeste's credit card receipts from the hotel, showing multiple overnight stays. Slide 10, a calendar showing the correlation between their hotel meetings and major case deadlines. By now, the crowd was buzzing with shocked whispers. Celeste had gone pale, and Victor was frantically gesturing to someone off stage to stop the presentation. As you can see, I said calmly into the microphone, true partnership requires dedication, commitment, and a willingness to work closely together, even during evening hours. Marjorie Lane stood up in the VIP section and began walking toward the stage. When she reached the microphone, I handed it to her. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the park, I'd like to thank Mr. Harlan for this illuminating presentation about my husband's work habits. Victor has always been dedicated to his clients, sometimes at the expense of his family obligations. She turned to face Victor, who was standing frozen beside Celeste. Victor, I believe you have something to announce to our friends and neighbors. Marjorie, please. Tell them about your resignation from the firm. Tell them about the state bar investigation. Tell them about the divorce papers I filed yesterday. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Victor grabbed the microphone. This is a private matter. It has everything to do with professional ethics and personal integrity, Marjorie interrupted, taking the microphone back. Two qualities that seem to be in short supply among some members of our legal community. She handed the microphone back to me and walked off the stage, her head held high. I looked at Celeste and Victor, both of whom appeared to be in shock. I think that concludes our presentation on professional collaboration. Let's give another round of applause to our featured speakers. The applause was scattered and uncomfortable. Most people were too stunned to react appropriately. As Victor and Celeste stumbled off the stage, I saw several people in the crowd taking pictures with their phones. By tomorrow, the story would be all over social media and the local news. That evening, Celeste confronted me at home. How could you do that to me in front of the entire town? I was sitting in my office, calmly organizing the divorce papers my lawyer had prepared. I didn't do anything to you, Celeste. I simply presented factual information about your professional activities. You humiliated me. You destroyed my career. No, you destroyed your career when you decided to sleep with opposing counsel and violate your professional ethics. I just documented it. She stared at me, finally understanding the scope of what had happened. You've been planning this. The investigation, the state bar complaint, tonight's presentation, you orchestrated all of it. I'm very thorough in my work. Jack, please, we can work this out. I made mistakes, but we can get past this. I'll end things with Victor. I'll do whatever you want. I slid the divorce papers across the desk. You can start by signing these. She picked up the papers and flipped through them, her face growing paler with each page. You're asking for everything. The house, the cars, my retirement account. I'm asking for what I'm entitled to under the adultery clause in our prenuptial agreement. You remember that agreement, don't you? The one your lawyer insisted on 12 years ago to protect your assets in case I ever cheated on you? The irony wasn't lost on either of us. If you contest this, I'll release everything to the media. Every photograph, every hotel record, every piece of evidence I've collected over the past 2 months. Your career is already damaged. I can make sure it's completely destroyed. Celeste sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. And now, there are consequences. She signed the papers with shaking hands. 3 months later, I sat in Murphy's pub with Eddie, celebrating the finalization of my divorce. The bartender who'd told me about Victor's reputation brought us a round of drinks on the house. Heard Victor Lane left town last week, he said. Word is he took a job with some small firm in Nebraska. Quite a come down from senior partner at Whitman Crenshaw. What about his wife? Eddie asked. Marjorie? She's doing great. Kept the house, got a huge settlement, and her interior design business is booming. Turns out a lot of wealthy women admire her for how she handled the whole situation. I raised my glass. Good for her. And your ex-wife? Last I heard, she was working document review for a legal temp agency in Portland. Pays about a quarter of what she used to make, but it's honest work. The bartender laughed. Justice served, I guess. After he walked away, Eddie turned to me. So what's next for you, Jack? You've got the house, a good job, and you're free of a cheating wife. Time to start over? I thought about it. The revenge had been satisfying, but it hadn't filled the hollow feeling that had been growing in my chest for years. Destroying Celeste and Victor had been necessary, but it hadn't made me happy. I think I'm going to take some time to figure out who I am, when I'm not married to someone who lies to me every day. That sounds healthy. Plus, I've got a new project at work. We're upgrading the security systems for half the hotels in the city. Turns out my experience with surveillance and evidence collection has made me very popular with divorce lawyers. Eddie laughed. You're going to make a fortune helping people catch cheating spouses? It's honest work, I said, echoing the bartender's words about Celeste's new job. We finished our drinks and walked out into the cool evening air. As we stood on the sidewalk saying goodbye, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Mr. Harlan, this is Rebecca Walsh. I got your number from Marjorie Lane. I think my husband is having an affair, and I need someone who knows how to find the truth. Can we meet? I showed the message to Eddie. He grinned. Looks like you're already getting referrals. I typed back a quick response. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Murphy's Pub. Bring whatever evidence you have. As I walked to my car, I reflected on the past 6 months. I'd lost a marriage, but I'd gained something more valuable. The knowledge that I was capable of fighting back when someone tried to destroy me. I'd learned that I was smarter, tougher, and more resourceful than anyone had given me credit for. Most importantly, I'd learned that justice isn't always served by the courts or the police. Sometimes you have to serve it yourself. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a news alert. Former senior partner Victor Lane, arrested in Nebraska on charges of client fund misappropriation. I smiled. Apparently, Victor's problems were just beginning. When you're a man without ethics, it's only a matter of time before you cross the wrong line with the wrong person. I got in my car and drove home to my empty house. For the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful instead of lonely. I poured myself a whiskey, sat in my office, and began planning my new business venture. Jack Harlan Investigations, specializing in marital infidelity and evidence collection. I had a feeling I was going to be very busy. 6 months after that, I was running the most successful private investigation business in the state, specializing in catching cheating spouses and gathering evidence for divorce proceedings. My reputation for thorough, legally admissible documentation had made me the go-to investigator for high net worth divorces. Marjorie Lane had become not just a client referral source, but a business partner. Her connections in high society and my investigative skills were a perfect combination. We'd helped dozens of betrayed spouses get justice and fair settlements. Celeste had moved to Oregon and was working as a paralegal under her maiden name. The state bar had suspended her license for 2 years, and by the time she was eligible to practice again, her reputation in Maine was permanently destroyed. Victor had been convicted of embezzlement and sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Apparently, his legal fees from the divorce and ethics investigation had driven him to steal from client accounts. His fall from grace was complete and irreversible. As for me, I'd found something I never expected, a sense of purpose. Every cheating spouse I exposed, every piece of evidence I gathered, every betrayed partner I helped get justice, felt like a small victory against the kind of people who thought they were above consequences. I was good at this work because I understood betrayal from the inside. I knew how it felt to discover that the person you trusted most in the world had been lying to you every day. I knew the rage, the humiliation, and the desperate need for justice that my clients felt. But I also knew something else, that revenge, when properly planned and executed, could be incredibly satisfying. The intercom on my desk buzzed. "Mr. Harlan, your 3 p.m. appointment is here. Mrs. Patterson says she has evidence that her husband is embezzling from their business to fund an affair with his secretary." I smiled and straightened my tie. Send her in. Justice was a full-time job and business was booming.